As time aged, new worlds were created of many fantasy lands, meaning fandoms have the time. Some fandoms are bigger than others and some are smaller, meaning that the small ones don't have that many fun videos dedicated to a certain medium because it's not that popular, which really sucks. I want to change that, starting with this review. So let us begin our journey through every season, every episode of this beloved children animation show of all time. You know which show I'm talking about since you clicked on this video and saw the thumbnail and such. So in case you don't, here is the introduction. It's Arthur, the most beloved children animation show of all time, that everyone of all ages can enjoy, such as myself. It's my #1 favorite TV show of all time. Unconditionally. This is my very first Arthur review, and what better place to start than at the beginning of episode 1 of season 1. Hi! Written by Joe Fallon, storyboarded by Gary Gabel, and directed by Greg Bailey, and many other people responsible for creating this episode. As any TV show, it starts with an opening theme song with an awesome beat fitting perfectly with the music and awesome lyrics written by Judy Henderson and Jerry DeVillers, performed by Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers. And it introduces the episode perfectly. It's uplifting, it's whimsical, it's funny, everything that is needed to create a heartwarming intro to each episode of the series. Throughout the review, I'm going to find the first words of each character at the beginning of the show, and continue to do that throughout each episode when a major or a minor, and maybe even cameo character has spoken their first words. The intro doesn't count since it's not the actual episode. If I did count it, all the characters' first words would be hey! 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 Yeah, it wouldn't be interesting, would it? Now let's begin with the very first episode. A scene takes place in the middle of the night with mysterious-ish music playing in the background, as a light shines from one window to another of a purple house that may or may not be purple until we discover it later in the episode. A mysterious circle of light minds its own business, wandering through an upstairs hallway of this house searching for something. It shines itself onto a door with a magical poster of a nuclear waste symbol that changes from reddish color to a bluish color. After the magical poster changes to blue, the circle of light opens the door magically, revealing to be a boy who is, hey! That looks like the kid from the intro. His name is Arthur. And why is he sleeping with his glasses on? Did he forget to take them off or something? Never mind. Where was I? Oh yes, sleeping peacefully and dreaming happily. And who is the Circle of Light's next victim? But then... plot twist, it was a flashlight all along. But who is holding the flashlight? It's DW! Congratulations, DW! You are the very first character to say the very first words of the show. And the first words that you said are... come with me! That doesn't sound creepy at all. Unless it's like this.
Come with me if you want to live.
She will be placed at the beginning of the Hall of Fame, a first word spoken by a character from Arthur. Very long title, I know. Before we get back to the review, the character next in line after W is Arthur, and his first words are... why? Nothing else. Just the word why, with a question mark at the end. Nothing special. Why? Because it's just one word that you said. Why? I don't know. You're the one who said it. Why? Please stop repeating yourself, kid. Why? You will be placed right next to DW. Why? Because you are the second... never mind. let's get back to the review. After DW blinds Arthur again with her flashlight, she gives him valuable information about their lost brother and that their parents are keeping it a secret from them. Arthur reveals to have the ability to break the fourth wall, ending it off with a sarcastic,
"Great."
DW shows Arthur a photo album where the secret information is held.
"See? I wonder where he went. Mom and Dad sold him or something."
So funny. Perfect thing that a child would say. Arthur tells DW that those pictures are him. DW denies it, blinding Arthur again. Then she claims,
"You were born with glasses."
Again, another perfect example of what a child would say. Then Arthur shines the light back at DW.
"You were only 2 years old then, so you probably don't remember."
Revenge. The flashback episode begins at another day of school. A teacher that will be later named Mr. Marco a few years later, his first words are,
"This quiz is to be completed in class."
Kind of boring, but he is a character, and it is something that he says. Arthur has some trouble reading the numbers off the chalkboard. He bothers Francine, asking her which number is which. Francine, the next character in line, her first words are,
"No, it's a 2.
Very nice. You sounded a little bit rude, but whatever. While analyzing this part, I was wondering which number Arthur is looking at. He doesn't point at each one, but if he did, Francine wouldn't know which number he's pointing at and might give him the wrong information. Anyway, that's just a minor nitpick. So, Francine thinks Arthur is being dumb. Later, she aced the quiz and Arthur failed it. And they both somehow have the same handwriting. This part really frustrates me. Not the handwriting part, this other part. Because
Why?
can't Mr. Marco tell that Arthur wrote some of the math problems wrong? And would that give the hint that Arthur can't see that well? Anyway, so Arthur fails the quiz and gets a headache. Which brings us to Buster, and his first words are,
"Yeah, sometimes Francine gives me a headache too."
a little rude, but alright, Francine deserves it. Arthur fails at basketball and afterwards fails at the eye test. I'm eliminating all the words that these characters say because they are not words. They are just letters. When the silent nurse points at him, giving Arthur and the audience some confusion. Why isn't she saying anything? It's just pointing at that stick at him. It could mean anything. You are going to the wasteland. You are going to the outskirts of town and live there. I am not going to say anything in this scene to save extra episode time. Muffy, the next character in line, her words are,
"How do you get in trouble with the nurse?"
Moving onward. Buster asks what happened and Arthur reveals the horrifying information that he has to go to the eye doctor with horrifying music of a out-of-tune pipe organ in the background that leads to the next scene at a normal eye doctor checkup. Which brings us to Dr. Iris's first words, which are,
"What can you see?"
a scene from amazing TV show of all time. Moving on. The eye doctor place gets attacked by a giant worm. Just kidding. But this part leads to Arthur's mom's first word, which is,
"There."
Long story short, it is revealed to the audience that Arthur needs glasses. But we already knew that. Arthur searches through the glasses and finds a pair that are brown and circled. But we already knew that. Which leads to Arthur's dad's first words, that are,
"Very distinguished."
Then here is a scene that is very funny. It makes me laugh. Just watch it.
Look at that airplane way up there. Look at all the leaves on the trees. Hey, Mom, you have gray hairs on your head. Dad,
have you always had those bags under your eyes?
The next day, Arthur goes to school wearing his glasses.
Whoa, you look weird.
He gets annoyed at what Francine says, and then he gets mad at what Pinky says.
No!
Who appears to not be a bully in this episode. Pinky's first words are,
You look different. You get a new haircut?
Francine teases Arthur by calling him Four Eyes. Buster defends Arthur, which makes Arthur happy that he has a friend by his side. But then at lunch, where Mr. Ratburn acts sketchy, Buster makes fun of him, which is a jerk move. But I didn't know Arthur was around. But again, he is still a jerk and doesn't have much purpose in this episode except to make Arthur alone with his situation. Anyway, he walks home wearing a blue trench coat he mysteriously has. Then Arthur does everything in his power to get rid of the glasses, but they keep coming back to him. He tries to get his little sister to break them, but that doesn't work either, and he ends up with a bruised hand. The next day, Arthur walks to school wearing his glasses. He hides behind a tree, and from that he ditches his glasses. Arthur explains to Buster that he knows where everything is in this school by heart. But that plan fails, and he ends up in the girls' bathroom instead of the boys' bathroom, and that ends in disaster, and he gets embarrassed. He probably gets into trouble, but yet again, this episode doesn't explain about that part. He watches a Bionic Bunny behind-the-scenes documentary as he accepts his fate of wearing glasses. Back to first words said by an Arthur character, Wilbur Rabbit / Bionic Bunny says,
I'm Wilbur Rabbit.
And it ends up showing that Wilbur Rabbit wears glasses just like Arthur's. And this makes Arthur really happy. The teasing doesn't bother him anymore, and with the power of his glasses, he is able to do the stuff that he couldn't do without them. Francine fashions a pair of her own. Then the flashback story ends and comes back to where Arthur is finished telling the story to DW. DW is disappointed in the truth and would rather have a lost brother instead. But then DW finds another mystery. Overall, the story mostly takes place in a flashback, taking place in the first grade or second grade, I'm not sure exactly which, but I think it's the first grade. The animation is good for its time, but as the show goes on through each episode and seasons, it improves. Not according to now. There are a few flaws here and there, but I don't mind. It's still a good episode. But how good is it? Let's begin to grade it part by part. Before the title card. It begins perfectly. You don't know what's going on, and you begin to ask questions. They didn't show DW's hand opening the door to Arthur's bedroom, but that's okay. I think the only reason why her hand wasn't shown is because the audience isn't supposed to know who the character is yet until the right time when Arthur and the audience finds out who it is, which makes it more excellent. DW wants to know more about this lost brother that she finds in the photo album, but Arthur explains that it's him, giving the episode's story a reason to go back in time as Arthur tells his story to DW. Anyway, this part gives the episode's story a little more edge and a good reason to exist. After the title card, the middle part of the story is well done, except for a few continuity errors, such as Sue Ellen, who isn't supposed to be around until the 3rd grade. Her hair changes at one point, but it's easily missable. Maria wears glasses at one scene, but then she doesn't in the next one. When Arthur storms out of the cafeteria, Buster is sitting at another table. Same with Jenna. Arthur walks home with a trench coat he somehow has. When he opens the front door, there is nothing but a gray wall. There should be some stuff there, but I don't think that was created yet. It is the first episode after all, so it's okay. At one point, Francine acts out of character, but it's fine and faithful to the picture book it's based off of. Besides all of that, the story is fantastic. At the end, after the flashback. The story ends when Arthur finishes the story to DW. And it ends perfectly, with DW's imagination going off again without her realizing it. And it fits perfectly with the rest of the episode's story, even though it ends with a little bit of chaos, but it's done very well. I would grade this episode an A-. This is a wonderful introduction to a fantastic TV show, and it does everything very well.
Really?
Right here I would usually say stay tuned, but I'm not doing these anymore. So yeah.
Why?